Victoria here. Welcome back to my channel. So I've done a lot of healing in the last 6 months, and I just wanted to take a moment or take some time to talk about that today. I talked about this a little bit on my Instagram stories the other day, and I got a lot of positive feedback and people who wanted me to make a longer video talking more about it. So here I am. So within the last 6 months, six to 8 months, a lot has shifted for me, and a big part of that was, of course, getting on IVIG and the changes and healing that has happened because of that, which I'm really, really grateful for. But another huge piece for me was a shift in my mindset and doing a lot of self-reflection, self-growth, self-love practices that have really transformed both my healing process and my life. So I wanted to talk more about that today. I do want to kind of provide a little disclaimer, because some of what I say in this video and this video as a whole may be somewhat triggering for some of you. Some of what I may say might bring up some feelings of frustration or anger or disagreement, just bring up a general feeling of resistance. And I want to say, first of all, that that's totally okay. A lot of what I'm about to say is stuff that I was very resistant to for a long time in my healing process, and things that made me feel really kind of defensive and upset when people would say certain things like this. And I had to get to a certain point in my healing process to understand it and accept it and believe it, and move forward with a lot of the stuff that I'm about to say. So if you do start feeling this resistance or these kind of negative emotions around things that I'm saying, I just want to say, first of all, that that's normal. Second of all, that maybe this isn't the time to watch this video, so just click out and watch it another time. That it's okay if what I say doesn't resonate with you. What I say, my whole experience doesn't have to be the same as everyone else's or resonate with everyone else. But also that if you do have questions or maybe a different opinion, please feel free to leave that in the comments, but do it in a neutral or positive way. Anything negative or attacking or disrespectful will be deleted immediately, so keep that in mind. I adjusted the lighting in my apartment for this video because in a lot of my other videos with the natural lighting, the sun changes all day, so this is a more neutral lighting, but I feel like there's a lot of shadows, which is frustrating. It's been hard for me to find good lighting in my apartment because of the way the sun shines in with the big window that I have. So we're just kind of gonna go with it, and hopefully this works out. So like I said, over the last 6 months I've done a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-growth, and self-love type of work, and that's really, really transformed my healing process and my life. And I shared a bunch of books on my Instagram. The post will be here somewhere, and I'll link it below, the other week, that really have helped me in this process, that I was reading and just really, really helped me with a lot of this self-growth stuff. And another one that is not in that picture is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I will link all of the books below as well, so you can grab them if you want to read them. But I really, for the past few years, was really stuck in, I hate using this phrase, but the victim mentality. I hate that phrase because I feel like it has so many negative connotations, and it's very victim blaming. So I'm gonna call it the illness mentality, which also I don't love, but and I'm not trying to put this in a negative light at all. You'll see when I get deeper into this video what I mean, but for the sake of having a quick phrase to go to, I'm gonna use illness mentality, and I don't mean that in a negative sense at all. But I was really stuck in this illness mentality of just feeling like all of this happened to me, not for me. You know, I had no control. My situation was miserable. Like, how could other people not understand how terrible this was and how my life was falling apart? And, you know, I was defined by my illness. You know, that was, I am Lyme disease, I am chronic illness. That's very much where I was, and I didn't even realize it for a very long time. You know, the first few years of my illness, I was very focused on treatment and healing, and that was good. That was what I needed. But then I reached this point where I was stuck. I completely stalled out, essentially. I was lost and confused. I didn't know what to do next. I felt frustrated that treatments weren't working. I didn't know what the right treatment to do was. I didn't know what to do in general. Like, I just thought, oh my gosh, this is as good as it's gonna get. I get to like 50% healthy and that's it for the rest of my life, and I don't want to be just a 50%, so fuck this. I felt like I was doing so much work on myself and my health and taking all the medications I was supposed to take and doing my detoxing and trying to sleep and it was getting me nowhere, and I was like, why am I doing all the right things and it's not working, and I'm not getting better, and I'm stalled in this one spot. I could not figure it out. I was like, what is missing? You know, maybe this is as good as it gets and I need to stop trying, and that's that. And that's okay. I think for some people, you know, there is just a level of healing that we can get to. Maybe I am at that level, or I will only reach a certain level of healing and I just physically can't heal anymore, and that's okay. But I just felt like, to me, there was something that was like, I know I can get better than this, but I'm missing something, and I couldn't figure out what that was. You know, I kept seeing so many other people talk about mindset and how, you know, they changed their mindset around their illness and they started to get so much better and they healed because of that. And then, you know, so many people talking about programs like DNRS, which is dynamic neural retraining system, and the Annie Hopper method, which are all brain rewiring programs. And I couldn't, the dots weren't connecting for me. DNRS and Annie Hopper's program just have never clicked for me. I could not, they just weren't for me, essentially. They weren't the thing for me. I could tell the vibe wasn't there. It just wasn't the right thing for me that I needed to help with my mental healing. But I also just couldn't understand these people who were like, yeah, I was just stuck in the victim mentality, and if you get out of that and reframe your thoughts on illness, like, it helps with healing. And I was like, you must be the special few. Like, there must be something special about you, because that doesn't work for me. Like, I've tried it and it doesn't work for me. I thought that they were just, you know, that maybe all the work they were doing physically with their diet and supplements was just working really well for them, and they thought, you know, maybe they had some positive thoughts. Like, I could not get my mind to think positively. I was just so stuck in this spiral of like this hole that I can almost not even describe, of just like, I'm sick and I don't know how to get out of it, and I'm stuck here and I don't know what to do, and I like couldn't change my mindset around that. But with, you know, I do have to thank IVIG, because it has definitely helped in my healing process, but it got me to this point where I could start reading again. I've had a lot of trouble with reading over the past 10 years because of the cognitive symptoms that have come along with my chronic illnesses, and IVIG has helped me get to a point where I could read again. And I know a lot of people listen to audiobooks, but they're just not for me. I like to physically be able to hold the book and read it and see the words in front of me, to be able to comprehend it. I'm a visual learner. So I got to this point where I was finally able to start reading again. I started reading a lot of kind of, I wouldn't even classify them as self-help books, but that's what I'm gonna call them. They were like self-help books, and books on learning to love yourself, and books about the brain, educational stuff, self-growth type of books. And like I said, they'll all be linked below, the books that I read. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts as well about how so much of what we know in society is so culturally ingrained, like these belief patterns that aren't even true, you know, like things about body image. You know, we're taught to believe, oh, skinny is healthy, but that's not true. And so I realized I had to unlearn so many things that I thought were the truth and relearn them, and also to just separate myself from everybody else and be like, I'm on my own journey, I'm my own person, different things are gonna work for me. Like, I'm an individual and I don't want to be like everybody else, and I need to figure out, you know, my own path and my own truth. I started to realize how much power I have and how much control I have in my life and my healing process. You know, of course, my illness is real, and your illness is real. I'm by no means saying, oh, this is all in your head, but I started to realize that I have more power and control than I thought I did. I have more power over my situation than I thought I did, and I especially have more power and control over my thoughts than I thought I did. And of course, your thoughts have a really big influence on how you perceive the world around you and how you perceive your body. They have a really big influence over your health and how you feel. And the mind is really pretty friggin' incredible, and I knew that, but like couldn't wrap my head around it or how to use my brain and mind to aid in my healing process. And, you know, for the past few years I've said to myself, I'm not my illness. You know, it's just a part of me, but I never believed that. Like I said before, I think deep down I never believed that. I felt like I am my illness. I am this chronic health condition, and that's it. that was so ingrained in my mind, and I so owned that in a sense that that's who I was. I was sick. Hi, I'm Victoria and I'm sick. Like, that's just really what was coming out of me, and I almost didn't realize it. And with all this reading these books and really reflecting on my life and my thoughts and my situation, I realized now that I'm, you know, I really do own that saying of I'm not my illness. My illness is a huge part of my life. It is a huge part of who I am. It's made me who I am today. It does impact my life, but it does not define me. My illness is part of my life, but it does not define me. And now I really do believe that and own that. I'll get into that a little bit more, expand on that a little bit more in a minute, but I want to share some things, some steps that really helped me in getting to this place. And you know, reading these books, like I said like 20 times now, was extremely helpful. But working on self-love, like I was so angry at myself and my body for being sick that I could not step out of that, and I had so much hate towards myself and my body and my life, and that was not getting me anywhere. I mean, that's not productive to just have so much negativity, to be holding on to so much negativity and putting out so much negativity, and I almost didn't even realize I was doing it. Like, I did but didn't. So working on self-love has really helped a lot, because I have more compassion for myself and my body, and being like, you know, I've been through a lot and I've dealt with a lot of health issues, but it's okay, and I can still love myself through that, because you can't hate yourself to health. Like, they just don't go together. Of course, I still have more work to do in this area. I think that's just a forever evolving process, an ever evolving process for everybody, working on self-love and self-acceptance. And so that's still like something huge I'm working on, is the self-acceptance piece, and accepting myself and my body for what it's been through and what it's gotten me through and where it's at each stage of my healing journey and each stage of just my life in general. Another big thing I stopped doing is stopped caring so much about what other people think. I'm very type A, and I'm very externally motivated, so this is a challenge for me, because I thrive off of other people's input and opinions, and I do things to get rewarded, essentially. That's just because I'm externally motivated. That's just how I am. It's my personality. But like, I've started to work a lot on like, okay, I don't care if someone doesn't like me. Not everybody's gonna like me. That's just how the world works, you know? And so working on that and realizing that, I don't know why this is just like has such an impact on my health, but like, my journey is my journey. It's not for anybody else. And so why do I care what anybody else thinks? I shouldn't, and I can't, because that's not gonna get me anywhere. I can't heal myself for other people. Like, first of all, I just can't, like, you physically can't heal yourself for other people. And also, I shouldn't want to heal just for other people. I need to want to heal for myself. And so realizing and working on that has been huge as well. Another big piece is that I've started to embrace my emotions more. I've always been someone to suppress. I've always been an emotional person, but I've been someone to try and hide and suppress those emotions, and then they'll just explode into a giant breakdown, or I take them out on other people. And so learning that it's okay to be, our culture, Western culture, it can be very frustrating, because it's very much like, be super independent, don't show emotion, be super strong all the time, like all of that sort of thing. And that's so detrimental to our health as humans. And learning to embrace my emotions and be okay with being emotional and being an empath has been extremely, extremely helpful. Learning about how to deal with my emotions, and it's okay to be frustrated or upset or angry, or happy or sad or anything in between. And that, you know, the more I try and suppress an emotion and ignore it, the longer it's going to last and the stronger it's going to be, versus just riding it out and accepting it. So like, if I'm feeling angry or frustrated or depressed about the situation I'm in, instead of trying to ignore that and push it out of the way, sitting there and saying, hey, you know what, it's okay, like, let me just sit here and be in that emotion for, you know, the day. Let me just have that. And then when I feel strong enough to employ my self-care routines and get out of that, then I can. And that's been so much more helpful than trying to ignore my emotions. So it's much easier for me to get through an emotion by acknowledging it than resisting it. I think that's a big thing. And as an empath, I've also learned a lot about how to set boundaries. I take on everybody's emotions around me, and it's very, very exhausting because I'm dealing with my own emotions and then everybody else's, and then I was trying to suppress stuff and then I didn't know how to handle it. And one of the books I read was all about being an empath and how to handle that and how to set boundaries with other people, and that's been extremely helpful for me, just to learn how to set those boundaries and how to deal with having strong emotions and taking on other people's emotions, or how to not take them on all the time. I know some of this stuff seems unrelated, but it's all of this together is what's been helping me, so that's why I'm sharing so much of it. You know, and of course I'm still human. I'm not perfect. I still have bad days. I still fall back where I'm in these terrible moods and I'm like, fuck being sick, you know, this happened to me and it's terrible and I hate life. You know, I have those days, and then I have to remember how much work I've done over the last 6 months and things that I've learned and say, okay, you know what? I had a moment and I felt that way, and it's okay. Now I can move on. Now let me think about everything you've learned over the past 6 months and employ some of these techniques and these mindfulness techniques to get out of that. You know, two things I want to notice. One, meditation has never worked for me. Freaking hate meditation. Sitting there trying to be quiet and breathe for 10, 25, even just 5 minutes has never worked for me because my mind goes everywhere else. And I get so frustrated when people are like, you're just not doing it right. And you know, maybe in 6 months I'll be like super into meditation and be like, okay, this is how you get it done. The same way 6 months ago I never would have made a video like this. But meditation in the traditional sense doesn't work for me. Meditation for me is much more active, and I don't think that this is wrong or a bad thing. Like for me, going to the gym or going for a walk is meditation because that's what gets my mind off of everything else. It allows me to focus just on the movements that I'm doing, and that's de-stressful. Or de-stressing. Or, you know, cooking is really a great form of meditation for me because it takes my mind off all my stresses and I'm just focused on the flavors and the food and the smells. So my type of meditation is much more active. For me, it has to be active because I need something to focus on. If it's too quiet, I get stressed out and overwhelmed and anxious. So I need somewhere to focus my energy. I've started to learn how to do certain breathing patterns that have been extremely helpful, and those took me months to get to that point as well. Another huge thing is EFT or tapping. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. I talked about this in my last anxiety video, so I'll have that linked. But tapping has been tremendously helpful for anxiety and mindset, especially when I'm in a really dark, bad place. I'll do the tapping. And you repeat something. So for me, if like I'm feeling really anxious and overwhelmed and angry with my situation, I'll be like, even though I'm feeling really anxious and overwhelmed, I'm okay, I'm safe, and I'll get through this. You know, even though I'm feeling really stressed out, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'll get through this. So things like that. Tapping took me, I've known about tapping for years, but it took me a long time of continual practice, even when I didn't want to practice, to really embrace that and have it work for me. So a lot of things I realized I just need to understand there. For me, also, a big thing for me is that I need to understand the mechanism of action. For many things, like somebody can't just be like, okay, go do this breathing and you'll be better. I'm like, okay, but why does that breathing work? Like, explain to me its impact on the nervous system. And then once I understand a mechanism of action and the science behind something or the theory behind something, then I'm more likely to try it out or practice it or be more excited about it. So as I started learning how tapping works, why tapping works, why certain breathing patterns work and their impact on the nervous system and the vagus nerve and things like that, I was more able to employ them and find them useful and want to practice them to a point where they became helpful. And a lot of it was just practicing and practicing until it became helpful, because at first it wasn't. I felt stupid doing tapping, you know, I felt stupid doing a certain breathing, but now the more I did it, I was like, wow, this actually is helping and I do see the benefits, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Another big thing is that this is gonna be a challenging one for a lot of people to accept, I think. For me, I believe everything happens for a reason, and Derek and I have discussed this on our podcast, Beyond Your Diagnosis. If you're not listening and subscribed, go do so. I'll link it below. But our podcast, we talk a lot of, it's all about chronic illness, and we talk a lot about a lot of different topics. But one time we discussed, I think someone asked us, you know, do you believe that you have any impact on getting your illness? Like, do you believe that you brought it on yourself in any capacity? And I used to be like, how could someone think that? Well, I guess actually I used to think, yes, of course I brought it on myself. Like, I'm a terrible person. This is all karma. Like, I'm bad, so I got sick, which is a terrible way to think. Like, that's so negative. And then I got to this point where I was like, how could you ever say that to me, that I brought on my illness? Like, of course I didn't bring on my illness. And now I'm at a place where I believe I did. And I don't mean that to say, like, obviously I was bitten by a tick. I got chronic Lyme disease. It's a bacterial infection. Like, that's a real illness. Your illness is real. But I believe that we ask the universe, even unconsciously, for things to happen in our life so that we can learn a lesson, or things happen to us because we need to learn a lesson. And for me, I've gained so much out of my chronic illness. I know that sounds so crazy and weird, but I have gained a lot out of it, and I've learned so much that I believe. And I had a lot of really bad habits and bad thought patterns before I got sick. And I think that for me, I had to get sick to learn a lot of the things that I learned. And I was asking the universe for help. Like, how do I get through this? How do I change my thought patterns around these certain things? And the universe was like, you got to go through this chronic illness journey. And so I believe a part of my illness was asked for so that I could learn lessons and grow as a human. And guess what? I've learned a lot and I've grown a lot as a human. So there you go. And there's a lot of things in my life that I don't think I would have learned or experienced if I hadn't gotten sick. Or maybe I would have, but it would be years down the line, and I feel like I'm a lot wiser and all these dorky, you know, cliche things because I got sick. But I really do believe everything happens for a reason, and I've gotten a lot out of it, and I've really started to embrace that a lot more. And the more that I embrace that, the greater my ability to heal is. And I think that's another thing, is to stop resisting the process. Like, the more I tried to resist the process and resist healing, the slower my healing got, and the slower my healing was. And the more that I accepted it and stopped resisting the things that I knew I needed to acknowledge and learn, and started to embrace them, the more my healing has sped up. And I can tell now, I'm part of this is because I'm very intuitive. I can tell there are certain things in my life that, you know, I've been very resistant to let go, like old thought patterns I've been very resistant to let go of, or old habits I've been very resistant to let go of that I know are not serving me, and probably something that I need to learn to get over and let go of in order to move forward. And I can tell that those things are kind of still holding me back. And so I know that I need to keep working on certain areas of my life and letting go of resistance in order to move forward. But it's hard and it's not easy, and it's a process. So I'm still working on things. Another huge thing is that I realized I needed to start living now. Like, even though I'm sick, like, I can't keep saying, oh, I'll do all this stuff when I'm better. I'll live my life when I'm better, because what if I don't get any better, you know? Like, I had to start learning how to live now and enjoy my life now, because you don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring, and this is my life. And so I needed to learn how to live with it and live now despite my circumstances. I hope that makes sense. I by no means mean to say to ignore your health situation. You know, I still have to pace myself. I still have to make sure I'm staying on top of my detoxing and my resting and my medications and my treatments. I'm not saying ignore all of that, but I had to learn how, you know, I would just say no to everything. I never left my house. I wasn't doing anything because I was terrified. I was so terrified of how I would feel, or if I would crash, or, you know, maybe if I just saved up all my energy all the time forever for the next 3 years, then that 4th year I'd be good to go. But like, that's just not how it works. And so I've started to say yes to more things, and I've been really, you know, I'm really lucky to have really great friends and family who understand my situation and are very willing to, you know, if we plan something, they know I may cancel last minute, or if we have to accommodate a situation when we get there, that's okay. Or if I have to leave early, that's okay. I have to bring my own food, nobody's weirded out by that. And so that's been really great, like learning to live with my situation, and say yes to more things has been extremely healing, because like, humans are social creatures. We're designed to be around other people, and the touch of other people is very important for the way that it's very important for our health and for our healing, and I was so isolated that was not healing to any capacity. And so I've gotten to this point where I'm doing more. You know, I launched my business, for goodness sakes. I stopped being so afraid. I just launched it, and I've started saying yes to doing more activities with friends. And then, you know, I get to a point where I'm like, I do need 3 days of straight rest and to not talk to anybody. And I acknowledge that and listen to my body and do that. And so finding that balance has been very, very important. And, you know, I'm not saying to push past your limits and make yourself sick, but learning to test your limits to see what you can actually handle and whether your treatments have been working, I think is very important. It's been very important for me, at least. You know, fear's an interesting thing. It can really hold you back from a lot. And take over your life, and it really had taken over mine. And I've written posts about the fear of healing and the victim mentality. I've done blog posts, a link, I did video on this as well. But that fear, I would feel, maybe we're in pain, or we're tired, or we're scared of flaring, but the more that we fear that pain, and that fear that something's gonna make us tired, and fear that something's gonna cause pain, and fear that something's gonna cause a flare, the more anxious we get. And that in itself can make you sick. Like I could make myself sick with fear and anxiety over the what if. Where if I just chilled the F out, I've talked about this a lot, if I just chilled out and did the thing or ate the food, I wouldn't have a reaction. I wouldn't actually have a reaction. And so I'm starting to learn that, like, I just kind of have to go do things, and then I deal with it in the moment. Like if I go and do a thing and I realize I'm really not there, my body can't handle this, then I say, okay, you know what, not today, and I accommodate the situation, or I go home, or whatever I need to do. But the constant fear is not getting me anywhere, and sitting in that fear and anxiety is not getting me anywhere. And so that made me realize, you know, too, that if I can make myself sick with fear and anxiety and make my symptoms worse just with my feelings about will I feel sicker, then why can I not use my mind in a positive way to help my healing process and make me feel better? So I'm gonna end it there, because this of course is getting long, like always, but I think that's a good place to end. And I'm happy to elaborate on any or all of these topics further. I think this was a good start to talking about mindset and healing. I think it's really important. It took me a long time to get here. You know, I've been in treatment for what, 7 years. I've been sick much longer than that, and you know, I'm just getting to the point where I'm truly understanding and embracing the impacts of mindset. And the thing is that your mindset does have a huge influence on your health. You know, they have done studies on this. They've done studies on the ability of certain mindset shifts and thought patterns and mindset work to actually increase like blood cell counts and other blood values that are needed, or to like shrink cancers. So the mind is very, very powerful, and learning to utilize it for good and not evil can be an incredible thing, but it's not an easy thing at all by any means. So if you are looking for a place to start, you know, check out the books that I've linked below, because they helped me a lot personally. And so I hope that maybe they'll help you. If you have questions or thoughts about anything I said today, I'd love to hear them. Leave them in the comments below. I know this was kind of a lot, and maybe a touchy topic for some, or an interesting topic for some, but I'd love to hear, you know, where you stand on a lot of the things that I said. And of course, as always, you know, this is my journey. This is what I've learned. This is what's helped me so far. So please do remember and respect that. And of course, you know, this is a journey. It's my healing journey. So things are changing constantly. I'm up and down. And so maybe in 6 months, I'll have totally different feelings about everything I said today. But this is where I'm at the moment. And I wanted to share that because I've been sharing my whole journey and where I'm at different stages. So if you found this video interesting or enjoyed it at all, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It helps support my channel. Hit that little red subscribe button because it also helps support my channel. It means a lot when you do. And I will see you all in the next video.